After the full-scale invasion, Kremlin propaganda made discrediting of Ukrainian refugees one of the main dimensions of foreign information activity.
AfD leaders like Alice Weidel emphasized alleged budgetary strains and portray refugees as a burden on taxpayers.
The Kremlin viewed the European Union migration crisis as a convenient platform for ideological confrontation with West.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project of Ukraine Media Center, an NGO Euro-Atlantic course, and I'm your host, Myroslava Yaremkiv. Russian propaganda promptly instrumentalized the topic of Ukrainian refugees. Discrediting this social group has become one of the key directions of the Kremlin's information machine, as well as discrediting the Ukrainian army, the military political leadership, the state, and Ukrainians in general. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Russian manipulative messages aimed at discrediting Ukrainian refugees in the EU and termination or at least reduction of Western aid to Ukraine. If you want to learn more about the subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. The Russians are simultaneously conducting several synchronized information campaigns against Ukrainian refugees. Each of them is aimed at different audiences: Russian, Ukrainian, and the population of countries receiving refugees from Ukraine. Messages for the Russian audience are aimed at further demonizing Ukrainians and strengthening the chauvinistic sense of their own superiority. The campaign fits into the general anti-Ukrainian and anti-Western narrative of Kremlin propaganda. The Russian propaganda campaign is trying to convince Ukrainians that no one needs them, neither in their own country nor abroad, which should demoralize the Ukrainian audience and provoke a feeling of hopelessness. Among the citizens of the states that receive refugees, the propaganda promotes traditional anti-migrant messages about social parasitism, increasing crime rates, cheap labor dumped on the labor market, and reconcilable cultural differences between citizens of Ukraine and EU countries. More on the discrediting Ukrainian refugees in the EU, please welcome head of the hybrid warfare analytical group, Volodymyr Solovian.
Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has led to the biggest migration crisis in Europe since World War II. According to the Eurostat data, as far as of the end of October 2023, there are about 4.2 million Ukrainian refugees who have received temporary protection in the EU countries. The largest number of Ukrainians found refuge in the EU countries are in Germany, Poland, and Czech Republic. In some countries, Ukrainian refugees have become a significant part of the population. For example, in the Czech Republic in September 2023, the number of Ukrainians who received temporary protection was 3.5% of the whole population. In Estonia, 2.7%, in Bulgaria, 2.5%, and in Slovakia, 2%. Therefore, in a number of Central European countries, Ukrainian refugees have become a factor in domestic political life. The topic of economic support for Ukrainian refugees and equal access to social benefits is used by right-wing radical and Eurosceptic political forces in order to spread the distrust of national governments and the EU institutions. With the framework of their strategy of international informational influence on the audiences of the European Union, Russia acts synchronously with the trends of the European right. After the full-scale invasion, Kremlin propaganda made discrediting of Ukrainian refugees one of the main dimensions of foreign information activity. A characteristic feature of the informational influence of Russian Federation on foreign audiences is its adaptivity to local trends and discourses that resonate with narratives of Russian propaganda. For example, in the Central European countries, the Russians are trying to parasite on the skeptical attitudes towards the idea of refugee integration that have taken root since the actual phase of the European Union migration crisis of 2014-2015. An important indicator of the informational vacuum which can be contributed to the penetration of Russian messages into the media space of EU countries is the level of negative attitudes towards Ukrainians in the EU among citizens of European countries. This category is the target audience of the Russian propaganda. Russian media has a wide field of spreading manipulative messages in the information space of a number of EU countries. Potentially, the most favorable environment for the penetration of Russian messages has developed in the countries of Central Europe. This situation is caused by a number of factors, in particular, the populist rhetoric of local political elites, for example, Hungary, election campaigns. During 2023, the election factor negatively affected the dynamics of Ukraine's relations with Poland and Slovakia. Media activity of Eurosceptic far-right organizations and parties, and of course historical sympathies of certain categories of population towards Russia.
Due to the fact that a lot of these messages do not correlate with reality, Russian propaganda actively uses outright fakes. Russian propagandists contrast Ukrainian refugees with migrants from Africa and the Middle East, and the benevolent attitude towards Ukrainians is presented to the countries of the Global South as white races. The Kremlin is trying to raise the degree of anti-Ukrainian hysteria among Russians and increase support for the war of aggression, demoralize and disorient Ukrainians, and also lower the level of support for Ukraine in the West. More on the pro-Russian messages in the EU political parties, please welcome Analyst of the Hybrid Warfare Analytical Group, Anton Khimyak.
In Germany, the Alternative for Germany, AfD, opposes aid to Ukraine, calling for a reduction in arms supplies and criticizing support for Ukrainian refugees. AfD leaders like Alice Weidel emphasized alleged budgetary restraints and portray refugees as a burden on taxpayers. Another AfD figure, Stefan Brandner, not only supports this view, but also manipulates information about Ukrainian refugees. In a tweet dated September 15, 2023, he referred to German media, claiming that there are potentially tens of thousands of Ukrainian social scammers in Germany. In the Czech Republic, Tomio Okamura, leader of the Freedom and Direct Democracy Party, consistently portrays Ukraine and Ukrainians as undesirable. He argues that Czech taxes are spent on Ukrainians and hides his position behind claims of goodwill for the Ukrainian economy. In addition, Okamura has made more radical statements, even bordering on hate speech, potentially inciting unwarranted violence against Ukrainian refugees. He suggested that Ukrainian immigrants' different mentality could lead to more conflicts with Czechs, and emphasized the need to address the issue of the large number of Ukrainian immigrants in the country. In Poland, the Confederation of Freedom and Independence oppose the state support of Ukrainian refugees. Rafał Meckler, a member of Confederation, is the face of the blockade of Polish-Ukrainian border. Another party member, Robert Winnicki, was involved in anti-Ukrainian action in front of Ukrainian embassy in 2017. One of the Confederation leaders, Sławomir Medzen, accused Ukraine of taking advantage of the trust of the Polish government and receiving preferences that even Poles do not receive. The party also attempted to sow discord among Ukrainians in Poland, distinguishing between those who lived there before the full-scale invasion and those who arrived after February 2022.
With the help of the refugee topic, Russian propaganda tries to weaken the unity of the West, accusing the USA and Great Britain of the fact that they allegedly dragged Ukraine into the war, and because of this, the EU countries face the migration crisis. In order to remove responsibility from Russia for the aggression against Ukraine, a conspiracy theory about the war as the conspiracy of mysterious forces, the world government, transnational corporations, secret organizations, etc., is thrown into the media space. like that they have a plan to build a new world order and establish total control over humanity. The spread of this narrative was recorded in Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Hungary, Slovakia, and other European countries. Analyst of the hybrid warfare analytical group Anastasia Ratieieva will talk more about Russian meta-narratives in the media space of the EU countries.
Moscow consistently exploits the shortcomings of the European Union's migration policy to discredit the idea of a united Europe. The Kremlin adopted this narrative in 2014-2015 during the ongoing war in the Middle East, and where most European states needed to prepare to handle such a large number of refugees fleeing conflict and seeking a better life. This situation caused a rift among the political elites of the European Union, which the Kremlin actively exploited in the information space. The Kremlin viewed the European Union migration crisis as a convenient platform for ideological confrontation with West. According to the definition by researcher of Russian propaganda Anton, critical aspects of the Russian meta-narrative on migrants in the European Union include, first of all, guilt complex, accusing the European Union and the United States of responsibility for wars and economical devastation in several regions, forcing millions of people to leave their homes. Second, emphasis of long-term threats. Russian disinformation directs manipulative accusations at the European Union leadership, claiming their inability to protect citizens from Islamic terrorism. Moscow generates fears of the inevitable Islamization of Europe. Fake stories, such as Lisa case, provoke manifestation of racism and xenophobia and encourage radical action against government migration policies. And third, Russia as the guardian of traditional European values. This narrative portrays Russia as a reliable security provider for European Union countries. Moscow suggests that it can influence the intensity of migrant flows in the Middle East, while Brussels is portrayed as an ineffective moderator. Information manipulations on the topic, combined with active actions to provoke a crisis, were developed by Russia as early as 2021. During the peak tension in November 2021, approximately 10,000 migrants seeking to cross the European Union border were concentrated in Belarus. Despite the general distrust in Russian sources, it is essential to note that these narratives can influence public opinion in European countries and shape electoral behavior, potentially impacting European Union foreign policy.
You've been watching a special project by Ukraine Media Center and Euro-Atlantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!